a chunk of gray slate, which now lay on the carpet, surrounded by shards of rippled glass. Attached to the offending rock was a message. President Addison didn't need to read it to know what it said. It was the third such note that had been anonymously dropped off at his office, though it was the first to drop in through a centuries-old window. He read the message anyway. "Repent, ye cowards, and beware. Hannah Grimthorpe rests not at peace in her grave. All lies must be exposed, and all wrongs set right, ere All Hallows Eve. The Witch of Waverly College." President Addison glared at the lines of looping script. Then he sat down at his desk and began to type a strongly worded email to Dr. John Wright, the new chairman of the Fairfleet Institute. If someone was sniffing around the history of Hannah Grimthorpe, the Fairfleet Institute was bound to be involved somehow. While Waverly College generally afforded the world-famous museums a certain degree of independence, President Addison was more than willing to pull rank when he needed the institute directors to fall in line. He had the sneaking suspicion that these sorts of shenanigans would never have made it to his desk, or through his window, under the experienced leadership of Dr. Alistair Fairfleet. President Addison had no patience at all for shenanigans. He liked to think that he ran a tight ship, and he had helped Waverly College weather a storm or two in his time. These Grimthorpe notes added just another wrinkle to a brow already deeply creased with years of administrative annoyances. It never occurred to the president that he ought to be more than annoyed, that there might, perhaps, be a serious threat afoot. Surely the note-writing stone-thrower was just a misguided undergraduate, hoping to shake things up before the Fairfleet Institute's famous annual Halloween gala. He could hardly have been more wrong. While the detectives were deliberating and the president was fuming, a shadow was creeping through Northbrook's historic Willow Grove Cemetery. The half-moon cast a dim glow over the headstones. An owl, perched in the branches of a twisted old willow tree, watched everything that happened below with her enormous orange-rimmed eyes. The shadowy figure moved past the oldest gravestones in the cemetery, those worn with age and covered in gray-green moss, and stopped in front of the largest of the marble bone houses, the Fairfleet Mausoleum. The mausoleum's iron door was framed by twin pillars, and a carved raven sat just at the peak of the sloping roof. The owl in the willow tree didn't think much of this stone bird. She didn't know that the tomb belonged to the Fairfleets, or who the Fairfleets were, for that matter. But even the owl thought that it must mean something to be dead inside of the marble vault, instead of dead and buried underground like all the rest. The figure below began fiddling with the padlock on the door of the mausoleum. When the lock yielded, the shadow slipped into the vault, and the owl was alone once more. Still, she waited and watched. The rustling of leaves made her think of the tasty voles who lived under the cemetery hedges. She was hungry, but she was patient. A fox crossed the graveyard, and the willow tree dropped 5 of its leaves before the shadow emerged. Deciding that it was time for voles, the owl let out a low, trilling hoot. The sound startled the interloper, who dropped the padlock in the long grass before they could secure the door once more. As they bent down to search for the lock, a gate clanged somewhere across the lot, and the intruder thought better of it.